What unsettles people the most is not rage, it's not yelling, it's not even rejection. What truly unsettles them is silence, because silence carries mystery. Silence is unpredictable. Silence forces them to confront themselves without distraction. And when the person they believed they could influence suddenly goes quiet, when explanations stop, when the chasing ends, when the endless supply of energy they fed on disappears, that silence becomes their nightmare. They thought you would argue, they thought you would plead, they thought you would crumble without their presence, but instead you chose the one response they never expected. You vanished into strength. You gave them nothing. No calls, no texts, no apologies, no explanations, just silence. And in that silence, you declared power louder than words ever could. Each day they replay what they said. Each night they wonder if you've truly moved on. They question themselves, they doubt themselves, they fear what your silence means. The confidence they once wore like a shield begins to fracture. Their arrogance twists into anxiety because the truth hits them with force. You no longer need them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That is exactly what your silence demonstrates. You are no longer their puppet. You are no longer their victim. You are sovereign over yourself, and that sovereignty terrifies them more than anything else. 1. Silence breaks their illusion of control. They believed they knew you. They believed they could predict every reaction, every word, every emotional response. Control was their illusion, and your voice was the proof they clung to. Every time you argued, defended, or explained, you confirmed that they still had influence over you. But the moment you chose silence, their map of you burned to ashes. Suddenly, the script they depended on no longer works. They expected anger, they expected weakness, they expected you to chase after them, but instead, you gave them nothing. No reaction, no explanation, no weakness to exploit. Just calm, unshakable silence. And that silence is not emptiness. It is a storm in their mind. They do not know if you have moved on. They do not know if you are planning something. They do not know if they will ever hear from you again. And that uncertainty is torture. Because silence is not retreat. It is a declaration of mastery. It is the clearest signal that you have stepped beyond their grasp, that you are no longer desperate, that you are untouchable. Your quiet becomes a mirror, forcing them to face their own fragility, their own mistakes, their own insecurity. The silence they once thought meant nothing becomes the loudest message of all. I no longer dance to your tune, and that realization cuts deeper than any words ever could. The next time they try to bait you, to pull you back into their games of control, remember, every word you give them is fuel. But silence is the weapon they cannot fight. Hold your silence like a sword. The longer you stay quiet, the faster their illusion of control shatters. 2. Silence turns their confidence into doubt. Confidence thrives on certainty. They once carried themselves as if nothing could shake them, as if your reactions would always be theirs to command. But silence destroys that illusion, because when you disappear into stillness, when you refuse to explain, when you withhold the access they once took for granted, their mind begins to devour itself. They lie awake at night, replaying every moment, every word, every decision. Did you move on? Did you finally realize your worth? Did you find someone or something better? Every possible answer terrifies them because each answer points to the same truth. You no longer need them. Understand this. People fear the unknown far more than they fear what they already see. Words, even painful ones, give them clarity, but silence offers them no comfort. It leaves them wandering in uncertainty, without closure, without predictability. And in that emptiness, their imagination becomes their tormentor. What if they lost you forever? What if they can never regain what they once controlled? What if their pride blinded them to their biggest mistake? Your silence forces them into the very place they cannot endure, the prison of self-doubt. The arrogance that once looked unshakable begins to crack. The confidence that once seemed untouchable erodes into fear. And all of this unfolds not because you fought, not because you explained, but because you gave them nothing at all. That is why silence is not weakness, it is strategy. It is not avoidance, it is dominance. By stepping back, you create a void their pride cannot fill, and in that void, doubt consumes them. Your absence becomes the loudest presence in their life. 3. Silence shows you're not controlled. True power has never been about controlling others. It has always been about controlling yourself. They thrived on your reactions. They fed on your explanations, your defenses, your desperate attempts to be understood. Every word you gave them was proof that they could still pull your strings. But when you fall silent, when you refuse to play their game, their entire strategy collapses. They expected you to break. They expected your emotions to betray you, to make you run back, to make you beg. That's how they held power, by counting on your weakness. But when you no longer respond, when you do not chase, when you no longer let them push your buttons, the truth becomes undeniable. You control yourself, and they control nothing. Think about it. They can't twist silence. They can't argue against it. They can't manipulate what you do not give. And that terrifies them because suddenly they realize the leash they thought you wore has vanished. You've risen above their chaos, above their noise, above their drama. You've proven through silence that you are not their puppet, you are your own master. Dependence is weakness, but self-control is freedom. And nothing proves your independence louder than your refusal to be baited. You don't need their validation. You don't need their attention. You don't need their approval. Your silence says it all. I am whole without you. That truth unsettles them more than anything else. They wanted to see you crawl, but instead you rise. They wanted to see you break, but instead you stand untouchable. And every moment you remain silent reinforces the reality that their power over you is gone forever. 4. Silence builds respect. Respect is never earned through begging, chasing, or endless explanations. Respect is earned through dignity, through restraint, through the quiet strength of self-control. And nothing communicates dignity louder than silence. When you choose not to argue, not to justify, not to fight for their approval, you force them to see you differently. They may never admit it out loud, but deep inside, they respect the one who does not break. People never respect what they can predict. If they know you'll always come back, always explain, always bend, your value in their eyes collapses. But when you withhold your words, when you stay calm, composed, untouchable, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability commands respect. Suddenly, you are no longer the one chasing. You are the one holding the power, because words can be twisted, but silence cannot. They can fight your arguments, they can twist your explanations, they can dismiss your pleas, but they cannot fight what you refuse to give. Silence leaves them face to face with their own behavior, with no shield to protect them from the truth of who they are. That is when respect begins to grow, not because you demanded it, not because you forced it, but because you silently proved you will never lower yourself again. Your silence is discipline. Your silence is strength. Your silence is value. The next time you feel the urge to defend yourself, pause and ask, does this raise my worth or lower it? If it lowers it, stay silent. Let your dignity speak for you. Let silence do the heavy lifting and watch as respect follows in its shadow. 5. Silence shifts the power dynamic. Power doesn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It doesn't belong to the one who demands attention or control. True power belongs to the one who masters themselves. And when you go silent, the balance of power shifts instantly. Suddenly, they are the one waiting, they are the one guessing, they are the one replaying every word, wondering why you haven't returned. Before, they thought they had control. They thought you needed them. They thought you would fold. But your silence turns that illusion into fear. Every unanswered call, every ignored message, every day you remain silent becomes a weight pressing down on their pride. Doubt creeps in. Questions echo in their mind. Did I push too far? Did I lose them for good? Why aren't they chasing me anymore? That confusion is their punishment, because silence rewrites the script they depended on. The truth is, when you refuse to react, you reclaim the control they thought was theirs. Power is not about forcing someone into submission. It's about showing them you don't need them at all. And that is what terrifies them most. They realize they no longer hold the strings. They realize the dynamic has flipped. Each moment you resist the urge to respond, you strengthen your position. Each day you remain silent, you make their fear grow heavier. What was once their confidence now becomes their weakness. And all of it happened because you did the one thing they never expected. You gave them nothing. 6. Silence creates space for your rise. Silence is not just about withholding words, it is about reclaiming your energy. When you step away from the noise, when you refuse to waste your breath on people who do not value it, you create the very space that allows you to rise. They expected you to return weaker. They expected silence to mean defeat. But what they never saw coming was that your silence would become your training ground. While they sit trapped in regret, you are sharpening your mind, strengthening your body, and building a life beyond their reach. Every moment you stay silent is energy redirected back into yourself. Energy that fuels your growth, your clarity, your independence. Understand this, silence is not punishment for them, it is freedom for you. Each day you do not reach out is a day you reclaim your focus. Each hour you remain quiet is another brick in the fortress of your self-respect. While they wonder about you, you're becoming someone they can no longer recognize. Stronger, wiser, untouchable. And here lies the secret. You were never losing them. They were losing you. The more distance you create, the more you see the truth. You never needed their approval to rise. They needed your attention to feel powerful. But without you, they crumble, while you ascend. Your silence is not emptiness, it is transformation. It is the quiet space where you rebuild, where you evolve, where you become unstoppable. And when you rise in silence, you rise beyond their reach. 7. Silence forces them to face themselves. Most people spend their lives running from themselves. They distract, they deflect, they bury their flaws beneath noise, but when you go silent, you strip away their escape. You leave them alone with nothing but their own reflection. No explanations, no comfort, no reassurance, just silence. And in that silence, their mind replays every word they said, every choice they made, every mistake that pushed you away. Your absence becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they see what they tried to avoid. Their own weakness, their own guilt, their own responsibility. They thought your voice would soothe them. They thought your presence would rescue them, but instead, all they hear is silence. And that silence grows louder with each unanswered message, with each day that passes without your response. It gnaws at them, reminding them not of you, but of themselves. This is why silence is powerful. It doesn't just make them miss you, it forces them to confront what they lost, and more importantly, why they lost it. While they wrestle with their regrets, you are free. Free from defending yourself, free from explaining, free from carrying a weight that was never yours to bear. Their reflection is their punishment, not your responsibility. Let them face it, let them sit with it. Let silence be the truth they cannot run from. 8. Silence proves you value yourself. Your silence is more than restraint. It is self-respect. It is a declaration that you will not tolerate disrespect, half-hearted effort, or anyone who fails to recognize your worth. Every unanswered message, every moment you refuse to explain yourself reinforces the truth. You choose yourself over their comfort, their approval, and their control. They may not say it, but they feel it. Your absence signals a shift they can't ignore. The confidence they once flaunted begins to falter because your silence shows them something their pride cannot fight. You are not dependent on them. You don't need their validation. You don't need their attention. You stand whole without them. And that is where your true power lies, because words can be doubted, but silence cannot. Your silence sets a standard, not just for them, but for yourself. It says, "My time, my energy, my presence are valuable, and I will not waste them where they are not honored." Each day you remain silent, you reclaim more of your independence. Each choice to withhold your response is a reminder that your worth is undeniable. You are not running from them. You are rising into yourself. You are proving through silence that your strength is permanent, your value unshakable, your self-respect untouchable. They thought your silence would mean weakness. Instead, it became the loudest proof of your evolution. They believed silence would break you. They believed absence would weaken you, but you have proven them wrong. Your silence was never weakness. It was strength. It was strategy. It was mastery. Every moment you withheld words, every day you refused to chase, every time you chose dignity over reaction, you reclaimed more of yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength, and that is the essence of what silence gives you. You cannot control their thoughts, their regrets, or their actions, but you can control your own. You can control where your energy goes, who has access to your peace, and how much of yourself you give away." Your silence has turned their confidence into fear, their assumptions into doubt, their control into emptiness. More importantly, it has turned you into someone stronger, freer, and untouchable. You are no longer their option. You are your own standard. You set the rules now. The greatest power is not in proving them wrong. It is in building a life that speaks for itself. A life that needs no explanation. That is your revenge. That is your peace. That is your rise. Remember this. Every time you choose silence over reaction, absence over chasing, and self-respect over desperation, you rise higher. You become unstoppable. You become untouchable. And nothing, no manipulation, no noise, no illusion of control can take that from you. Your silence is not emptiness. It is power. It is your shield. It is your victory.